I'm Jesse, and this is my meditation corner. So this is where I do my meditation on a daily basis, I don't always meditate as often as I'd like, but I do try to do once a day at least. If I possibly can meditate twice a day, I'll meditate twice a day. Now, meditation, there are lots and lots of different ways that people can approach meditation. I just would like to teach you the way that I typically teach meditation. It's a very simple way, and this is what I would consider, out of everything that I've studied, to be the way that you're going to find the most overall benefit from, the greatest amount of peace, the greatest amount of, I would say, mental clarity, and just overall, this is also where I would say most of us are going to find a spiritual connection. And I know I don't talk about spiritual connections that often on this channel, but this is where I personally have found my own, where I found that spiritual connection myself. So this is, to me, this is my outlet for that. So it's very simple. Now, if you notice, over here, I've got a meditation. I've got a little meditation bench. Now, this is not something that you have to have, but it does make it easier to get relaxed. Now, when it comes to meditation, here, I'll get back on this. When it comes to meditation, what we're really trying to do with our body, we're trying to relax our body so that we are not really in our body quite so much, but we don't want to get so relaxed that we're going to fall asleep. So that's really difficult to do sometimes, and to be honest, I've had times where I really thought I was having some kind of a deep trance or some kind of a deep vision, and it was just the fact that I was in this weird borderline area between sleep and consciousness. It's a really interesting experience, and I've had it a lot, but it's generally this cusp between dreaming and not dreaming, and it's kind of weird, and it's something that it's hard to describe, but we don't want to fall asleep. So that's why typically we will be seated. Now, you can meditate in a seated position. You can meditate in pretty much any position you like, as long as you don't fall asleep, as long as it's not a position where you're likely to fall asleep. There have been a lot of people will meditate in the yogic position, folded leaf, or there's some people, some people will meditate just in a regular chair that's comfortable for them. So if you want to, you could do something like, let's see here. You could do something where you're just in a chair like this, and you could absolutely meditate like this. It's totally fine. However, it's up to you how you want to do it. I would recommend really working on finding a special place and a special position and a special way to sit that you do every single time. Okay, so experiment with it, kind of toy with it a little bit as you get used to it, but eventually find that place. Okay, this is the room that I go to. I close the door over there. I'm in a quiet spot. I know that I'm going to be seated this way, and I know that I'm using my meditation bench. My meditation bench, the reason why I have it, now some of you may meditate, maybe you want to meditate just sitting straight on the ground. That's totally fine too. That's a traditional way to do it. And to be honest, now that I am far more flexible, and now that my hip mobility is exactly where it should be after years of untraining bad habits, this is a very comfortable position for me now. But when I first started meditating, it wasn't that way. When I first started meditating, I had the anterior pelvic tilt. I had, I had the American chair syndrome. I was a chair sitter. So I got this as a present early on in my meditation, and it's broken I don't know how many times. That's why I'm very careful when I sit down on it. I've had to fix it multiple times. It's just part of my meditation habit now, and it's something that I just always know I'm going to go and I'm going to find my meditation bench, and I'm going to go into this room and I'm going to meditate. Now, there are just about every religious tradition there is a meditative tradition in just about every religion there is. So, some people find meditation to be something that is anti-religious or something like that. I would highly recommend you research your religion, and you most likely, I've never heard, I don't know of any religion right now that is, I guess, a major religion that does not have a meditative tradition in it somehow, somewhere. So you may be surprised. Maybe it's something you've not heard of, but I know I personally have been surprised. But I'm just going to talk about just basic standard meditation that you don't have to be religious, you don't have to be unreligious, you don't have to, that anybody, no matter who you are, you can do this and you will benefit from it greatly. Basically, find a seated position, find that position that we were talking about. I would recommend crossing your legs so that you're comfortable, and you're going to want to have a decent posture. It's very easy as you're sitting here over the amount of time that you may be sitting here to kind of go down. Your head might get kind of heavy, and maybe you're down like this. The thing is, while this is relaxing, if you go down like this long enough, you're going to fall asleep. Meditation, if you're, and I'm talking to a person, hopefully, if you really want to get into meditation, you're going to put time into it. And time sitting in stillness can sometimes lead to unconsciousness. And the reason why you see people that they have these positions is because we're trying to not fall asleep. We're trying to still the mind, but we're not trying to fall asleep. That is something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, so I'm just wanting to bring that up in this video. The other thing is, we're trying to have a good posture, so okay, don't overextend it, but okay, you want to have a decent posture. And a lot of times I like to just imagine that there's a string out of my head that's just holding my head up, and I am just going to be here like this. Now, most people who meditate will close their eyes, and that is generally because we're trying to avoid getting a lot of information through our senses. We're trying to avoid that. So here, especially in the West, we use our vision. That's the sense that we use for more than anything else. So here in the West, especially if you live in the United States or Europe, close your eyes. And if you live anywhere else, I would always recommend you to close your eyes. Some people don't need to close their eyes. Some people, if you just look at the wall, look at something that if you want to keep your eyes open, that's fine. If you're afraid of falling asleep, or if you commonly fall asleep, look at just a wall. Look at something that is blank. Don't look at a picture. Don't look at a screen. Don't look out at nature. Those are ways. You can do that if you want. You can do those things if you want to. I'm not saying you can't, but if you're really trying to get into deep meditation, you're trying to kind of shut down all these inputs that we're normally bombarded with, because we're trying to listen to this inside. We're really trying to silence the mind, and to do that, we need to silence a lot of that input. So I'm going to close my eyes, and the next part that a lot of people see, you'll see people doing this, or maybe they're like this, or okay, so these are typically, in the West, most of the time we refer to these as mudras, because they're typically referred to in like Hindu or Buddhist culture as mudras. So the way you keep your fingers, and that is something that if you want to get further in that's fine. Typically, what I do with my personal way to do it with my meditation background is a matanya. So, and you can do whatever you want. If you don't want to do anything like that, I would suggest having your hands up. Now, this is not necessarily for any other purpose other than to keep the chest open, because while we're meditating, the breath is mostly what we're going to focus on. So we want to keep a nice straight back, and we're going to want to keep a nice open chest. You can go like this, but you know, if you want to just keep your hands on your knees, that's fine too. But typically, I'm going to say, typically the average person is going to want to just keep the hands open and go like this. Now you're going to notice this, as you do that, you're going to bring attention to the fact that you're holding some things in place, and that is okay, because again, you don't want to fall asleep. It's okay that there's some very minor attention to these places. That's going to be fine, because that will fade away quite quickly over time, and it'll become muscle memory that you won't even think about. But it's something that, if nothing else, it'll hold your attention just enough so that you don't go unconscious. Now, so I'm going to sit like this, and now the best thing that I can tell anyone who's trying to do this, it's very difficult to meditate, because literally the monkey mind. Okay, so the monkey mind, and you can research this term, but it refers to the neocortex, right? The part of our brain that is problem solving, that is thinking thoughts, that is thinking about what happened the other day, the thing that I'm going to do later on, that funny joke I heard in the hallway, the video game I played, the TV show I watched, the song I listened to. All those things are in the neocortex, and what we're trying to do is silence that part of our brain, silence that problem solving, that part of our brain that is primarily, it's a very useful part of our brain, but we're trying to silence that, okay? And we're trying to do this, and it can take time, it can be frustrating, because literally what we're trying to do is sit here without thinking. So we're trying to not think about anything, which sounds really easy, but it can be difficult. So what do we do? Where do we put our focus? What do we think about when we're meditating? Well, the first thing is you're going to close your eyes, and you can do this as I'm talking to you right now. So close your eyes and just try, as you've got your eyes closed, try not to think of any images. Try to just see what is in front of your eyes. You might see shapes, you might see a little bit of static fuzz. You might see, maybe you were looking at a screen like the one you're looking at, you've been looking at recently. Maybe you might see the outline of my body from the screen that you're looking at. But what I want you to try to do is just focus on the darkness. I don't want you to try to visualize anything. Just focus on the darkness, focus on the fact that you're not seeing. If we could just, if there was a switch just to turn off our senses, that's great, that would be awesome. But we can't necessarily do that, so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to end the data stream that's coming through our eyes, and really just try to silence all of that data stream that our brain tries to process. This is also another reason why we want to meditate in the quiet. A lot of people talk to me about, well, why wouldn't you meditate in the, when there's noise and things around? Isn't that gonna, wouldn't that be great if you can, isn't that whenever you're supposed to meditate? Like you see it in the movies where someone, it's this chaotic scene and the person sits down and they're meditating. Well, it looks great in movies, but if you're really trying to build a regular daily meditation, you're going to start off and it's going to be difficult to do, even in the silence. So you don't want to have any distractions. You don't want to. The best time to meditate is early in the morning and late at night, because most people are asleep, or it's just quiet times of the day. But anytime you're meditating, you want to be in the quiet. I wouldn't say go into a dark room. I always have lights on, but I'm gonna shut my eyes so that all my senses are going to feed my brain less data. So I'm going to sit here. I'm going to just try to silence the information that's coming from all my inputs, right, from my senses, and I'm going to focus on the breath. And you're going to focus on your breathing primarily most of the time when you're meditating. And that is going to carry you through, your breathing will carry you through the vast majority of your early first year or two of meditating. And if you're like, oh my God, it's going to take a year or two to get good at this, believe me, it's going to take the rest of your life to meditate. Getting good at it is irrelevant. And I know that might sound weird, but you're going to continuously grow. Think about it as you're growing, as opposed to, I'm going to get good at this. Yes, you're going to get good at it. You're going to gain skill or whatever at meditation. But the goal here is to grow in your meditative practice. So the vast majority of it is going to be your breathing. And I'm going to do another video that will be up. I'm going to put both these videos up at the same time. I just don't want to make too big of a video right now. But I'm going to make another video on meditative breathing, and that's going to be coming up next. So find a place, find a position that works for you. Remember to find a time of day that's going to be peaceful. Remember, try not to overthink it. We're trying to shut down that overthinking part of our brain, that monkey mind, and really just say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to set a regular habit. We're going to talk about how long to meditate and how to breathe when you meditate in a few videos that I'm going to release. I'm going to release all these videos at the same time. So hopefully you watch this one and all the other ones too. Okay, so having said that, guys, subscribe, share, like, etc., etc. Go out and be nice to people, and then stick around for the next videos on how to do these meditative techniques.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Pretty sweet snow angel.